Tracking employee mileage is a huge time suck. But what if your employees had the ability to enter 2 locations on their phone that automatically calculated mileage cost and logged it all into a Monday.com board? In this video, I'm going to show you how to do just that, how to build a fully automated mileage reimbursement tracker using a custom Monday.com board, Make.com for automation, the Google Maps API to calculate the most accurate mileage, and a math function to calculate the travel reimbursement amount based on the current IRS standards. And we're going to do this all without writing a single line of code. So you're looking at a Monday.com form that I've built from a board that's going to track the mileage for us. You have the trip purpose field where you can put in whatever you need there. You have the date of the trip, and then you have these forms with addresses. And the cool thing is they will auto-fill as you type. And then you can select the address. That way these addresses are verified and they are clean data and they are in Monday the way they should be. So I'm going to click Save Travel Details. And over here on the Monday board, you're going to see this new item appear right there. We have the client visit, and the automation already ran and added the miles and the reimbursement. So that is exactly what we're going to build. And this is something easy your employees can do out in the field as they're traveling. Pull out their phone, fill out that Monday board, and you have a record of their travel right here. If we haven't met yet, my name is Andy, and I help entrepreneurs add time-saving automation to their business. If you don't have a Monday.com or a Make.com account yet, check out the description for an affiliate link for each. This doesn't cost you any more, but it does support the work I do here on the channel. All right, so here's an overview of what we're building. It's going to start with the form that you've seen, and that's going to trigger a webhook. And what that means is as soon as somebody hits submit on that form, that's going to send a signal to Make to start running this scenario. So this is going to be a real-time dashboard in Monday showing you exactly what's come through to date. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to trigger that Make scenario, which starts right here with that Monday trigger. And that trigger is watching for new items. Then Monday's going to carry that data over to the Google Maps API module in Make. And then we're going to find the mileage between the start and the finish. Monday converts those addresses to latitude and longitude, which is perfect because we need to use that in that module. Next, Monday's going to take that data and we're going to calculate the reimbursement amount. So it's going to be miles times whatever the IRS allotment is per mile. And then Monday's going to continue and we're going to add that mileage and reimbursement back to Monday.com. Now you may be asking me a question here like, why don't you do this calculation inside of Monday? If you have a formula in Monday, it's going to affect all of your rows. So if you go in and update that amount, it's going to recalculate all of the rows in the past, which will make those calculations inaccurate. So I'm going to calculate this based on today's rate and record that into Monday.com. The first thing we need to do here is get our Monday board ready. And I've actually created a template for you to use. There's a link in the description with that template. And it's going to look like this when you get into that template. So here is our trip purpose. And the way I set that, this is pretty cool, is I went over here to the settings and I said default items, change item terminology, and I changed the terminology to trip purposes. And then what that does is it makes it singular for trip purpose. I have the trip date here, the origin address, and the destination address, and then the miles and the reimbursement are going to come from that Make.com scenario. All right, so now we're going to set up this webhook and first Make scenario module to get this going. So I'm over here in Make and I've created a brand new scenario and I'm going to give that a name. Do that first is my recommendation because it will give it a very generic name and you won't be able to find what you've been working on. This first module is our trigger, and the trigger always goes at the beginning of the scenario and it always only uses one operation. So if you're kind of learning Make, I'm going to throw some tips in along the way as we go. So I'm going to click on this and that's my cursor's down there. I'm going to search for Monday. Then I'm going to click here so I can see all the modules, and I'm looking for watch a board's items. So you see we have boards here, column values. I'm going to go down to items right there. Watch boards item. Triggers when a boards item is created. So I'm going to click on that. And now I have to create that webhook. So I just click here and I'm going to choose my board ID and update type. I'm going to give this a name. I generally give the same name as my scenario. It's just easy to match it up that way if I need to do that in the future. I'm going to click here for board. All right, so I'm going to show you a little trick here. I have 3 boards called mileage tracking because I've been working on this project and getting ready for this video. They all have exactly the same name, which is kind of inconvenient. But if you have boards that have similar names and you're having trouble finding them in the list, if you go back over here to your board in a browser here, we've got this ID right here. It says board / and a number. That number is the ID number of your board. So what I did is I went 44636. I got the last 5 digits and I selected a board, and when I click map, you can see 44636. So that's the correct board. This was actually the 3rd out of 3 boards I tried. Always is the last one, right? So that's how you can kind of define whether or not you get the right board. The other thing you could do is you can actually go over here and copy this ID. And I'm going to delete that out. So I'm going to paste it in there. And if I flip this back off of map, it goes back to the human readable value for that board. So really easy to do that kind of thing. All right, back on track here. The update type is an items creation. So I want this to run when the item is created in the board. I'm going to save that. In the background, it's going to create that webhook between Monday and make. So when something happens on Monday, that webhook's going to fire and bring data to us in make. So I'm going to save that. Now I want to run this so we get some data. So let's hit run once here. I'm going to also hit save. And let's go back to our board. And let's actually go to the form. Test 1. Just type something random in here. All right, so we're going to click into our results here. And you can see here's the column values. And down here we have, that's our date. We're not going to touch the date. Right here is our starting location. This is our ending location. So the next thing we need to do is add a Google Maps get directions. I've already connected mine right here. You will probably have to go get an API key from the Google Maps API and plug it in here. And that's probably a video I'll do at another time. We're just going to skip that for now and go right through here. So our origin, you notice here it says we need latitude and longitude pairs. So this is not going to be the address that was typed into the form. It's going to be the lat and long. So right here's our origin. And you can see Monday has given us the lat and long, which is really handy for this project. So I'm going to click lat, comma, long for our origin. Let's go to our destination, which is the second location here, lat, long. Travel mode is driving. You have walking, bicycling, transit. Waypoints. We don't want any waypoints in here. I do want to look at the advanced settings and scroll down here. And I'm in the United States, so I'm going to change units from metric to imperial. If you want to leave that metric, by all means skip this step. And I'm going to hit save. All right, so that's that part. Now let's run this yet again and go fill out a form here. All right, so distance, yeah, distance was 1 foot, so that's kind of fun. But we have that text there, and that is text, and it's got text, the FT for feet behind it. And when I hover this is a text value, it's not a number. So we have to deal with that in our next module. So let's add that module, and we're going to type math. We're going to evaluate a math expression. And right here, we have that distance text. And again, if I hover over that, you see in brackets, it says text. It says raw text. It's labeled text. This is text. The number 1 can be text, but it can also be a number. And it has to be a number to do mathematical calculations. We can't use it as text, and it can't have a feet behind it as a metric or unit. So what I have to do is I have to use the parse number. I'm just going to type it in there, open parenthesis. You can also find it right here, parse number. Okay, so when you do that, you're going to parse number. You're going to put the number here. So it's going to, what it's going to do is it's going to parse that that number 1 out of there, or whatever the numeric value is, and ignore everything else. And it's going to turn it into a number and ignore the other stuff. And then the decimal separator is going to be a period, which we really don't have here. And then over here, I'm going to scooch over, make that a little bit wider. Now I'm going to go back to my numbers, and I'm going to do the multiplication, which is right there. It's an asterisk. You can't put an X or a regular asterisk from your keyboard in here. You have to go click that operator for it to work. And then 0.70. 70 cents is the current IRS allotment for travel, I believe. So we're going to put that in there. And just a note, if that value changes, you would come to this module in the scenario to change that. So let's say it goes to 72 cents. You would just come in here and you'd add a 2 right there and save it and save the scenario, and you're done. So it's really easy to come in here and change that. I'm going to save that. I'm going to leave it at 70 cents. And then if we go back over here to our map, we've taken care of this. We've got our Google Maps done. We've just made our calculation. The last step here is to add that mileage and reimbursement amount back to our Monday board. So I'm going to add another module here. We're going to click Monday, and I want update column values of a specific item. I'm going to click that. I've selected my connection, the board ID. I'm going to copy my ID, click map, paste it there, and then turn the map off, and right there it is. The item ID I am going to map because that's going to be dynamic. So that's going to come from our trigger. So I'm going to collapse all right here. Then I'm going to open up the watch boards items, and I'm going to, you'll notice here it says item ID, and over here you don't see an item ID. Make used to be called DePulse. That was the name of it instead of make.com. And back then each line instead of an item was called a pulse. So you're going to map the pulse ID right here. Just a little bit of confusion. Their API still calls it a pulse ID, and make obviously has item ID here. So those are the same thing. All right, next I'm going to click add a column to update, and I'm going to go down here to miles, and on the value I'm going to go here to Google Maps. And remember, this is a text format, and in our board that's a number field. So I'm going to put the text in there, but I'm going to back up. I'm going to do that parse number again. Semicolon, period, and close parenthesis. That is going to turn that value into a number. Next, I'm going to go and I'm going to put the reimbursement amount right here. And that value is going to come from our math. So I'm going to click the result right there. And that's all for this. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit auto align. And I'm going to save the scenario here. All right, I think it's time to test our scenario. I'm going to make sure I save this. Now, on the scheduling for this scenario, I'm going to leave this at immediately. And that means it's not going to run unless something happens. So if somebody fills out the form today, it's going to run immediately. And if nobody fills it out for 3 days, this isn't going to run and keep checking. It's just going to only run when there's someone who filled out the form. So let's give this a test. I'm going to save, and I'm going to click run once, and let's go over here, and I'm going to open the form. Actually, I'm going to go back to the main table. I'm going to get that checkbox here. We have all of these selected, and I'm going to archive those. I don't want there to be any confusion about which one I'm submitting. Final test. I hope it's the final test. We'll see. Starting address, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Destination, Colonial Circle. Let's go Yorktown, Virginia. Just making up addresses. All right, we're going to save the travel details, and I'm going to jump over to the board as quickly as I can. This is probably going to run faster than I can get there. So there we go. Let's submit that and go back over here. We got here just in time to see this pop up, but this is our final test. This is our trip date, origin address, destination. Here's the miles, 164, and then here's that reimbursement amount for that trip. Travel tracking is an extremely manual task. Several years ago, I had a job where I had to do that. I had this little notebook that I had to write in. And if you don't know this about me, I was really bad about doing that. So I probably lost out on some reimbursement from my travel. but this is really an easy system. It allows your employees to log travel as they're on the go. You can instantly get that data, and you have an organized record in Monday. You could export this, import it into a invoicing or financial software if you want to. This is a really powerful solution for small businesses. I even had a client the other day that I built this for. It was the original idea for it, and she said she has a friend that works at a big firm, and they have really expensive software that does this. Could I build something similar? And I said, yeah. So you're getting basically what some companies spend a lot of money for in software. You're getting it with a few tools and not writing any code. Again, if you want to take it further, you can add an employee drop-down field. You could add approval workflows. You could send payment confirmations. You could put map links that show the route on the board. You could trigger emails when certain things happen. There's a lot of things you can do to extend that. I'm here and happy to help you with that if you get stuck and need help with Monday or Make.com. If you're looking for more tutorials for Make.com, you can check out this playlist. You can subscribe to my channel here. And I thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.